Hi folks, Slick Sizes here. Knife Delight put out an open tag to show us your Stockmans. Now usually when somebody puts out one of these things, I've usually got a shed loads of knives to show you, but Stockman is not a pattern I have a lot of. It's not that I don't like it, I do like the pattern, and a couple of my very best knives are Stockmans, which you'll see shortly. But this, I suppose, is the what you might call the classic Stockman. This is a case, Delrin, full size. I don't know if it's called large or just full size, but anyway, Stockman. And it has the nice big clip point blade. Just to give you an idea of the size of these things. This here is about 7.5 inches long. It has a blade of about 3 1/4, cutting edge of about 2 3/4, something like that. So it's a fairly chunky knife. It's one of these ones that's, when you come to British knife law, it's I don't know if it's dubious, but it's marginal. It's one of those things that's kind of on the edge. If you go by cutting edge, you're fine. If you go by the full length of the blade, you're not so fine. And you can argue about, the rights and wrongs of that. One little cross, which I think makes it 2019 or something like that. This is the, that when you have that logo, they started with 10 little crosses and they took one off each year. So I think that's 2019, and then they brought a new logo out in 2020. Nothing on the other side. It's got reasonable but not stellar walk and talk. The second blade on these is the sheep's foot. And quite often the sheep's foot will rub on the main blade just because they're so close together. I'm going to zoom out a wee bit. We're a wee bit close in here. That's a bit better. Clear the junk out of the way there. So we've got a nice wee sheep's foot blade on here. It just says on there USA 3375 is the pattern number. CV, I think 75 is actually the pattern number. 33 just tells you that's the yellow Delrin version, and obviously CV tells you that it's a chrome vanadium or carbon steel blade rather than the super sharp 420 HC variant. And then of course we've got a final blade on here, which is the Spey, and that makes that as traditional a sheep's foot Stockman knife as you're ever going to get. And as I say, there's the focusing CV on there, chrome vanadium. As I say, it's yellow Delrin covers, brass pens, brass liners, nice big thick liner in the middle. But as I say, you often find with these that no matter how beautifully the blades are fitted in together, you quite often find a bit of rubbing. There's a little bit on here, it's only a tiny wee bit on the main blade, which is just where the end of the, try and stay on camera, of the sheep's foot blade just rubs, mainly because if you press it across like that, you catch that blade. So anyway, that's the standard case, and I have one of those. I do have another case, which is the medium Stockman. So in terms of size, as I say, this one, you're talking about 4 1/4. Didn't really need to measure that to know that, to be honest. And this one here is the 3 1/2. This is pretty much a standard Stockman, but there's just a couple, there's one little difference. So this one is again by Case, and again it's in, this one is in I think it's called Peach Stag, sorry, Peach Jigged bone. And these have got a better polish on the blade. This is a true shot one. Now again, Case XX, and this one has how many stars? 3 stars? Yeah, 3 stars, so that would make it 1997. So just a couple of years older. Again, we've got the clip blade, and on the other side, at the same end as the main blade, we have the sheep's foot blade, which USA 63032 CV. Oh, it's a CV one as well. I thought this one was true sharp. Well, there's the thing. Now there's some rub on the lamb's foot blade there as well. That's not so good. And then the third blade on here, which obviously should be a spay blade, but they do this one with a choice of spay or spear. And as I've never really been a big fan of spay blades, I went for the spear, and as I say CV on there as well. So it makes it quite a traditional little Stockman. Just get the main blade out again. Just have a quick look at the size of that. It's relevant to people in the UK. It's perhaps not relevant to anybody else, but there we are. It's from the bolster, we're talking about just a fraction over 2.5 inches, cutting edge of 2 3/8 of an inch. So it's, you know, absolutely UK legal. You could carry this. It's a nice little knife, fits nicely in the pocket. Again, you've got rub on there off the you see that there, off the sheep's foot blade, and unfortunately that's just common with this pattern. So if we've got a couple from Case there, let's put them off to the side actually. I have a German Stockman. This one here is from Puma, which are a Soligan knife company. Though I bought this one actually off the Apostle P in America. So this one's been from Germany all the way across to America and then back to me here. Again, no. Oh, I should have said this one has nickel pins, linen micarta, which I think is quite nice. Sort of looks like ivory, but without killing any elephants, which is always going to be a good thing. Brass liners, 2 springs. Main blade has its own spring, and the other 2 blades share the second spring. Now, this one, no satin blade here. Sorry, no polished blade here. We have a satin blade instead. Being German, of course, or European, you inevitably have billboarding on the blade, so it's Puma handmade, Germany, stainless. I happen to know it's 420 HC that it's made of, because the box that it came with a little faux felt, or faux velvet rather, bag and a little leaflet that tells you it's 420 HC. I do think the blades kind of look like they don't necessarily come from the same knife. The nail nicks aren't really matching, but that's just the way of things. What's the action like? Oh, good snap. I haven't had this one out for a long time. Nothing written on that blade. No tang stamps. No tang stamps on the main blade either, just the billboarding. We do, of course, have the Puma gold shield in there. Never a big fan of those. I just think they look a bit tacky. And the final blade, which has a much deeper nail nick, which is good for opening it. See what the action's like. good snap to it. Nothing on that tang, nothing on that tang. As I say, it's a satin finished blades. I mean, it's a nice little knife, and it was very, very inexpensive, and that was I was buying a couple of other knives from the Apostle P, and this one was in his sale, and I just thought that's a nice little one to add an extra, I don't know, $40 or something to the bill, but it went in the same box, so there was no postage. Now, these are 3 of my Stockmans, and they're perhaps nice enough, but not particularly special. The other 2 are these, and these are very special. These 2 are both made by Lee White at Taylor's Eyewitness, and one is a few years old when he was really just learning the trade, and the other one is one from 2021 when he kind of knew what he was doing, without a doubt. I'll look at them separately. Now, this one is a mother of pearl, and that's why I have it, because it's a mother of pearl. It's not the best fit and finish knife that Lee's ever turned out. I mean, you can see the pin, for example, here on the pivot. You can make out the pin at the other end as well, but I think this one would be normally acceptable. This one you'd kind of question a little bit. The other side is better, but you can see a second pin here, which is just, you probably shouldn't be able to see. The other thing is that the file work on the back isn't quite symmetrical. It doesn't quite match up one blade to the other, which you'll see later he does manage to get right. But I like this knife because it's mother of pearl, and I will always go for a mother of pearl knife. I've 3, I think, of Lee's mother of pearls. This one, a Barlow, and a slim Barlow. Now, the action on these is not great, and that's probably the worst thing about this knife. I think the main blade is okay. That's got a decent snap to it. Nice and polished, very lovely. It says here, Eyewitness Sheffield, that's a picture of an eye, and then Witness Sheffield, England. So it's a nice clip point with a nice deep nail nick, easy to use, good polish, and a nice sharpened edge, which is always good to see. Not always present on all English slip joint knives, but Lee does tend to put a reasonable edge on. Even the budget ones get a decent edge. Some of them vary. Some are better than others. Now, that's just me having trouble opening it. It's a reasonably deep nail nick, so there really shouldn't be a problem. It's nice and sharp, but where this knife is a little bit of a letdown is that action is on the secondary blades is just a wee bit flat. I mean, it's no worse than my GEC 62, which is horrendous. But anyway, the second blade here is again the lamb's foot blade, sheep's foot blade. I'd say it's probably a sheep's foot blade, actually. You could almost argue it's a ram's foot blade, but I think I'd go for a sheep's foot blade. So I'll just fold that one away. And again, I think you get some blade rub with this one. Actually, it's not that bad. There's a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of blade rub, if I can get it right in the light. But it's tiny, almost unnoticeable. And then the final blade on this one is the traditional spay blade. And again, I think this has I mean, there's no snap to that at all. I was trying to give it the best chance. Let's do it again. No snap. But I say, again, that's like my 62 from GEC, so these things can happen. And as I say, this was an early Lee White. It's still a really lovely knife, and I got it at a considerable discount, because had I paid full price for it, I think I probably would have been sending it back and asking for a refund. But I got a considerable discount, and it was also helped with the fact that I had some money from people buying knives from the Bakewell Cook Shop, and if people buy them and use my name, they get a 5% discount, and I get 5% credit, which goes towards my collection. Now this is the other one from the Bakewell Cook Shop, from Taylor's Eyewitness, again from the Bakewell Cook Shop, and this one there is no sign. Well, you can just about make out the pin in the right light, but they're perfectly smooth. There's no questions of them sticking out. This one is in quite a nice bit of desert ironwood. It's not really a burl, it's just a nice grain. The filework on the back is all nicely matching from one spring to the other, very nicely done, and where it goes round into the blades is also perfectly well done. I can just get these blades open. Now the action on this was just a wee bit, a wee bit stronger. Got it this time. As I say, the filework goes up onto the blades nicely. There's a wee bit of blade rub again with this one. As I say, that's just one of those things. I think it's pretty much there on all Stockman, particularly if when you open them you can't pinch them properly like I can't. So that's a nice, there's a good heavy pull on that, but it's not a nail breaker, but it's a good solid stout pull. And then we've got the sheepsfoot blade, nice snap on that, nothing written on it. So on the main blade we just had the picture of the eye and the witness, Sheffield, England, exactly the same as the other one. These ones, as I say, are in 420HC, which is the standard steel that Taylor's Eyewitness use. It's quite sharp, that one. I'll not push that one. Well, I talked over it, but there's a nice snap to that. I'll just do that again. Lovely. So clearly Lee's knife making skills have come on in leaps and bounds. There was, the first one, it wasn't a bad knife, but that second one is an excellent knife. So the one thing I did want to point out about these knives is that these are not only British made, but they also have a sort of certain advantage to the British knife buyer, carrier and user, and that is, as you remember, I showed you the case blade. If you measure the full blade from the tang, is just over 3¼ inches, whereas say the cutting edge is under 3 inches, and that is what the legislation says. But judges in the UK are the most short-sighted and awkward of people. They will look for anything that will give them an easier life. And one of the easier life things that they've done is they've decided, let's not bother about measuring cutting edges, we'll just go for the full blade length and we'll measure it from the handle. And that causes a whole lot more problems, and that's why the legislation was written the way it was written. The legislators sat down and thought, what's the best way to do it? Because the cutting edge of a knife and the length of the blade from the tip to the bolster can be completely different. You can have knives where there is quite a lot of metal before the handle, and that the handle may start back here, but you have a large section of unsharpened metal. So they just made life, the judges have just made life more difficult for themselves by thinking up a shortcut. So, as I say, the cutting edge of this, if you measure it straight like that, is just under 3 inches, and if you were to measure along the cutting edge, sort of rolling the edge along, you'd still find it comes in at just under 3 inches, but the full blade measured from the handle comes in at decidedly over 3 inches. Now the funny thing with these is that the cutting edge on this comes in at a very similar length, just shy of the 3 inches, so somewhere over 2 3/4 inches. but the full length of the blade, if you measure it from the handle, also comes in under 3 inches. So in other words, you've got pretty much the same cutting edge with the case knife as with the tailor's eyewitness. I mean, maybe a 1/16 of an inch shorter, but it's pretty much the same. But the full blade length is considerably shorter, and that makes it these knives unequivocally legal to carry in the UK, which I think is a real hit to get the same amount of cutting edge, but with the blade under length. Also, the handle on these is very slightly shorter, just shy of 4 inches, so you're about 3/8 of an inch shorter than the case knife, which I don't think makes that much of a difference, because these are also a little bit, the tailor's eyewitness one's a little bit beefier, so you've still got a good hold in your hand. There's no real shortcut there. So anyway, I don't have many Stockman knives, just 5. I thought maybe I'd forgotten about one, but I looked in the drawers and nope, I just have the 5. But I think they're 5 really good knives, so they were worth showing, if only for the 2 tailor's eyewitness knives, because they're ones that you just don't see every day. Oops, completely out of camera shot. I'll get them in there. Right, so I'll leave it at that. They are my 5 Stockmans. There are a number of knives still in the can, ready to be delivered. So you'll see them coming up through to almost to the end of April. Actually, I've got videos scheduled. So if you want to see those, remember to subscribe, and if you want notifications, ring the bell. And if you like the stuff, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you very much. Bye.